So it's near about 9:30. Excuse me. Um, Not a lot of people in the room yet, so maybe we'll give them a couple minutes before we get started. I apologize if you're up super late or up super early. Do you want to do an audio test, Nails? Works great.
The rest of the winter cold here.
Yes, we'll give it one more minute and then we'll get started.
Yep.
All right, well, let's get going. People are going to make it or not. Hey, this is the IETF 122 Wish Working Group session. Here in the room with me is one other participant and the audio guy, and online we have 5 others. Less than normal. And a longer term at the end, maybe we could talk about what if we meet going forward, what that's going to look like. But um, it's Friday of the IETF, so if you've been here for a while, you know all about this. This is the Note Well. It's all about the policies and procedures of the IETF, how to, what's the standards process, the working group procedures and the like, anti-harassment procedures, code of conduct, copyright, patents and IPR. And the patent and IPR stuff you can kind of summarize. If you know something, say something. This is the Note Really Well. This is really about making sure we keep it professional, and that if you do feel like it hasn't been professional, there's many avenues for which you can pursue to try to correct that. You can start with us as chair, can talking to us as chairs, the AD, the ombudsperson, etc. Again, feel free to come forward if you think you've been harassed in any way. Meeting tips: please use the on-site meeting tool to make sure we get an appropriately sized room. Pretty sure we could meet in a closet. So, thank you for coming in. And obviously, if you're remote, please make sure you mute your microphone when not talking. Agenda: do a quick status update on WIP, and then we'll talk about everything else for WEP for the rest of the time. We're definitely not going to take up the full 2 hours. I don't even know if we'll go an hour, but we'll go from there. So I don't have any slides prepared for the WIP discussion, but basically all the approvals are in Auth 48, so we are awaiting it to be published momentarily. It may happen before they get on the plane or when they return back to their homes in wherever they live, and so that might happen on Monday. So it's very imminent, which is great, and congratulations to everybody when we get that out the door. All right, so on to WEP. We don't really have any particular slides ready to go, but what I'm going to do is kind of give a little bit of a monologue about where we are, and then I will allow share window, and then maybe we'll pull up that's the wrong one. Share this window, that's the wrong repo, it's this one. So basically, we're at the point now where we've been talking about whether, to add server initiated STP or server-side offers for a while now. It's been multiple cycles, and we're at the point where we need to decide to do it or not because we can't proceed. So we're in one of these kind of like interesting binds. So we've started a consensus call, and it's been ongoing for a little while, and it's still ongoing. So if you'd like to participate, jump over there. But we do need to decide what to do. And at some point, we're going to have to do it. So I guess I'll throw this over. That's kind of the intro. And I'm going to hand it over to Sergio, or sorry, to Niels to let me to go for it. Unless do you want to? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you summarized it already. Just like 10 minutes before the meeting, I went on the list and counted, and so far we have 7 people in favor of option 1, which was like supporting essentially like a client-initiated offer and a server-initiated offer. 2 people are in favor of, or sorry, that was option 1 was to actually make that part of the web draft before we push it forward. And option 2 was to do the same, but in an extension spec. And for that, we currently have 2 votes. And then we have 1 vote who is opposed to both of these options. So it seems that right now, if nothing changes, we have rough consensus for making this part of the web draft. Which then raises some other questions. Sorry, before we go there, I put as the deadline end of next week. So there's still like a couple of days left for people to raise their opinions on this topic on the mailing list, please.
Yeah, but I mean, out of the number of people that have participated in this working group over history, 10 is actually a fairly high number, right? So I don't know that we.
Yes,
I don't know that I'm expecting a deluge of more emails flying into the list about what's supported, right? So.
No, and like with 7 to 2, I think it looks very strong for option number 1. I think the Julius brought up like a valid concern, whether we want to proceed with basically the draft, the PR you have open here, as far as I understand it, allows the client to send an offer, and then the server can decide whether it sends back an answer or whether it sends back an offer itself. And then the client needs to handle basically both of these options. And Julius is saying that that's too complicated, essentially, right? And he's basically saying we should limit it to one thing only. For that, it would be better to have more audience. So with the very limited amount of participants here right now, I don't think it makes sense to try to get to actually raise this topic or get to a conclusion on that one. What else is there? Like, I don't know if we.
So the question is, can we do? Yeah, my thinking is like, if the consensus lands that way at the end of next week, are we talking about landing this PR and then tweaking it to do?
I think so.
Yeah. Follow on.
I think that would make more sense to me to just move forward rather than like trying to bash around on this PR more and more until we merge it. I think that's just like makes things more complicated, would be my opinion.
What do others think? Are there any other opinions? Sergio?
Yeah, I have not reviewed it in deep the PR, so I would say that there are several comments there that are not sure if are addressed or not.
Yeah,
so I mean, if the consensus, the rough consensus is that these PRs should be, or that we should include both options in the draft. I'm not sure if this PR is ready for doing so. I mean, is one thing is getting consensus that this should be worked on and merged eventually, but I'm not sure if the PR is in a mergeable state yet.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe that's then the next follow-up question, which I will raise on the mailing list once our call for consensus is done, end of next week. Yeah, I don't know. If it's not, then I guess the question is, where do we get a PR from?
Yeah.
then we would need to ask the folks who voted in favor of this option to like come up with a usable PR if this one is not good enough. Okay, Lorenzo says he can help. Okay, so we get at least some.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely one of those points where it's like, contributions welcome. If we want to get this done, then people need to start, writing some text. So I appreciate Lorenzo for the offer. Sergio?
And the other thing is that if the rough consensus is to go for option 1, I will step out as editor of the RTC because I consider that, I mean, as I said a couple of meetings ago, my time allocation for this working group is much more than past. So, I mean, I was committed to going to continue working on web,
Yeah, you
on
thought
web, considering that I mean, it was the delta compared to WIP was almost none, so it was fairly easy to get back and have all the HTTP review and all the 48 things also.
so
So, so I will not do that again if this PR get merged, because I consider that the efforts needed to pass all the reviews again and things like that, it will be too much for me.
So Sergio, there's a couple of things that we can do. So I'm going to start off with saying thank you for getting it to this far, and I totally understand I thought I was done, and then you added a bunch more, and my day job changed. So I completely understand that. The question is, would you like to be still listed as an author? Because then essentially at this point, all you have to do is like review the changes that come through and give, thumbs up or thumbs down. That's it. If you don't, we can move you. I would like to move, at least at a minimum, move you to a contributor section, but you're perfectly okay to stay on as, your name on the front page. That's totally doable. And we will just have to identify another person that was willing to, be the stucky to get it across the finish line. So you don't have to answer that now, but definitely
No,
know.
yeah, I want to still want to be author of the RTC, but
Okay. Yeah.
I consider that's, yeah.
Yeah, the amount of time that you can contribute to get it done is different. Okay, that's great. We can make sure we can get. We'll find somebody. Cool. So I think is that it? I mean, I hate to say that.
I think we can maybe take a brief look at the other outstanding issues. At least I don't know if people have opinions on that. I did try to bring one of the issues, which was the discoverability as web URL to the HTTP folks. Unfortunately, I didn't get like a super clear answer from them. Someone said like, why not a new URL scheme, which would make it easiest to identify. But then others pointed out that that obviously brings the problem of like how would browsers basically implement this? I guess like a specific client could easily add support for another URL schema. But for browsers, it might be a different battle. So yeah, I didn't really get like a unfortunately really good answer to this.
I feel like developing your own URI scheme, I think, is just fraught with danger, because the amount of overhead to get that done is not going to be insignificant.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I was surprised that someone from the HTTP group basically said like, why not? Because I phrased it something like that that's something where people warned us of, and then one of the answers was like, why not? But yeah, so like yeah, I don't know if we can or should rule that out. Probably should.
I mean, I don't want to make it say like it's impossible, but like I think you have to be super dedicated and have somebody that's willing to drive that forward, and it could be challenging. But if it's the right thing to do technically, then maybe we do it. But all right. Yeah, we'll see, Mike.
I think that was the only one where I had like at least tried to make progress, even though it was less progress than I was hoping for.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, unless anybody has anything else to say, I think we got some action items to wait for the Sergio.
Yeah, the one question regarding, I mean, I know that in the past there was some concerns about the viability of the working group.
Yeah.
And I mean, do we have any kind of deadline, or do we need to? Because I know that in the past we were, it was we were kind of in danger of being the working groups being closed or something like that. So I mean,
So I
given
think
that
that what I can say is I think that if we're stuck and not progressing, then that heightens the concern about closure. If we decide to move out on incorporating the server side offer and we get a new co-author, then we're good. But if we can't identify someone else who's going to take this across the finish line, then unfortunately, I think it all just falls down. So I think that oftentimes necessity breeds invention, and people show up to get things done, hopefully. So if there's somebody out there who really wants this to happen, I think someone will step forward. That's at least the feeling I've gotten. So there's not a deadline on our back. Our new AD is sitting here, Mike. He has not yet leaned on me and said, you shall get this done by X date. But if we've been stuck for like 9 months on this one issue, and it's all we've talked about, and I think we're at the point now where there are other ways of judging consensus, right? If you get stuck, like we could flip a coin. We didn't do that. Luckily, we actually got some actual useful input. So I think if we go forward and we can identify another co-author who's got cycles, then I think it's possible we can get this done. And I'm hoping it shouldn't take all that long. So, all right. I guess the other thing is that definitely going forward, it's scheduling is hard at these IETF meetings, and if we're going to have this few people and in bad time zones, we don't get a lot of people from elsewhere, we may start to go more remote to make it slightly more conducive, and we can bounce around the time zones or whatever, but like at least get people. Like if we're going to have 7 people here and we get 2 hours in this slot, it's a little weird for the secretariat to be scheduling time for us. So we want to be respectful of everybody else. So that we're on Friday for a reason, right? Because a lot of people have left, but until 5 minutes after the meeting started, I was the only one in here. So yeah. Oh, Depang.
So for the server side event, I have interest to work on that, and I also have offline discussion with some experts. Also have interest. Probably I can volunteer to working on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, but with that, I believe. Cool. We can have up to 5 people on the front. Like that's fine. All right. I think unless anybody else has anything that they would like to talk about, we're going to call it quits. All right. Well, thank you for getting up, staying up late if you're remote. And thanks for coming here. And Mike, you and I can talk after this. All right. So thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Yeah, well, can you give me like 5 minutes? Yeah, let's just step outside away from the microphones. I was talking at the front of one room and the transcript was sketching up everything I was saying. That's not. Yeah. In TLS, I had to walk